The Universal One by Dr. Walter Russell. The Universal One, Volume 1, First Principles. Book 1, Chapter 12. This is a finite universe. Mind is all there is. It has no limitations as to shape, size, or volume, for these qualities are but appearances and have no real existence. Mind is limited, however, in its power, its knowledge, and its imagination, the last of which is its creative force. All of the effects of which mind is the cause are measurable in that they have the appearance of dimension. All dimension is limited, therefore must all cause be limited. Mind cannot create infinite complexity. Beyond the 10-octave cycle of cause and its included effects, mind cannot go. All effects evolve to their limit and devolve back again into cause without any change whatsoever taking place in cause. The limitations of mind are absolute. A limited universe cannot be an infinite universe. This concept is extremely difficult for man to comprehend, for man has a fixed concept of a non-existent effect called space. This misconcept is born of his fixed idea of a universe separable into parts, all of which are related one to another in shape, size, volume, and the intervals of distance between them. To man, space and distance are fixed attributes of all his concepts and limit his comprehension. Man has built a misconcept of an infinite universe of infinite extension. Based upon his misconcept of space, he has reasoned that the universe cannot be finite or limited in extent, for if so, it must have shape or form. Also, he has reasoned that, in order for it to have shape or form and be limited and finite, there must be something beyond. The objective universe of man's concept demands a beyond to a finite universe. But there is no beyond, because there are no bounds nor boundaries in this formless universe. If space is non-existent, then extension or continuity is non-existent, and there can be no beyond. Beyond is a relative word. It is part of man's concept of objective relativity. It is a dimension. It is based on a belief in the reality of the unrealities of dimension and separableness in a universe of the one thing. Man's sense of reasoning does not accept the idea of the universe as a finite volume, such as a sphere, hanging in a vacuum, beyond which, to his objective thinking, there must be more empty space. For this reason, he has formulated the belief that a finite universe is inconceivable to the human mind. Therefore, the universe must be infinite. Man's outer mind reasoning, which is objective, does not stop to consider that an infinite universe is more inconceivable to the human mind than a finite one, but that same reasoning is willing to accept the palpably incomprehensible and relegate it to the domain of divinity, which is admittedly incomprehensible, rather than concentrate the inner mind upon the higher octaves of thinking and learn the truth in light. Einstein rightly says that the universe is finite, but wrongly says that it has form. This great thinker declares his belief that the universe is spherical or elliptical. Einstein rightly says that any line of direction in that appearance, which man calls space, is curved, and that it is presumable that any continuous line in space would curve ultimately back to its point of beginning. Therefore, the universe must be either spherical or quasi-spherical. This curving, however, is not because the one substance of mind has a finite form or shape, but because all effects of motion are universal, and every effect of motion is an action which must end where it began, in its final reaction. Direction, therefore, can never be in a straight line, but must always be curved. The reason why all lines must be curved lines, and also why all curved lines must be spiral in their curvature, will be written down in all exactness in its proper place. It is true that any apparent disturbance in the substance of mind returns unto itself, unto its own exact apparent point of beginning, in a sequence of reproduced waves which spell out the appearance of another non-existent effect called time. Man's fixed concept of the reality of time is a drag anchor holding him away from truth. His fixed concept of intervals of time in which one effect of motion in one part of the universe makes its appearance in another part is the result of such purely objective thinking that true concepts cannot replace them as long as this method of thinking persists. There are no parts to mind substance, no place and no position. Every part is the same part, every place and position the same place and position. Thinking is universal, and all effects of thinking are universal. More than this, they are simultaneously universal, for thinking is simultaneously universal. Even the little child in tossing a ball affects the universe simultaneously with that tossing. All motion is simultaneously universal in this universe of equilibrium. Sequence is an appearance due to form. It has no existence in itself, and without form it would not have even the appearance of existence. All form is purely a question of gravitational intensity, and therefore has no existence. Time itself is an effect of gravitation and has no existence. Like heat, it is but an indicator which registers sequence in integration as heat registers resistance to integration. The reproductions and effects of motion and their attendant unrealities do not in any way change the universal substance of mind, the one reality, the one unchanging, indivisible, ultimate substance of all that is. Add to the non-existent appearances form, space, and time, two others which obsess man's mind, position and dimension, and the relator can readily perceive that with these non-existent unrealities firmly fixed in his mind as existent realities, it would be impossible for man to accept the idea of a finite universe. To do so, he would have to imagine a form hanging like a ball in a void, to which there must be an empty, inconceivable beyond. Man's outer mind is so accustomed to thinking reality into the unrealities of space, time, motion, form, position, and dimension of an objective universe that it is hard for him to adjust his thinking to a subjective universe in which the unrealities disappear into the reality of light. Man's inner mind thinks in light, freed in its thinking from the illusions of outer mind thinking. Einstein's error is in attaching to the substance of mind the attributes which belong solely to dimension of the substance in its appearance as form. Thanks for watching.